folks, it's Jeff here. Just a quick reminder, if you're loving Disney Coast to Coast, there are a couple of easy ways that you can support the show. We'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or wherever you listen to the show. This is a simple way to help other Disney fans find us. Also, go ahead and share your favorite episodes on social media and be sure to tag us. You can find all of our social media information at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of you who listen every week. Your support is very appreciated, and we love that you're enjoying our Disney geekiness. Now on with the show.
Are you craving a trip on Space Mountain? Well, we've got the next best thing. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show I have Jack from the Theme Park Pulse podcast. Hello, Jack.
Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
Oh, not much. We're here to do a Disney movie review today, which I haven't done in a while, and this is actually a Disney Channel original movie review, and we're talking about Kim Possible. So let's get into that conversation right now.
Do.
Grab some popcorn and silence your cell phones, because it's time for the Disney Movie Review.
Okay, Jack, so how much did you enjoy Kim Possible growing up? Because I will say from the start, I have never seen an episode.
Oh, really?
One.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why I actually wanted to do this episode of the show, because I kind of wanted to look at this DCOM from two different angles. Somebody who really knows nothing about Kim Possible, that would be me.
Yeah.
And then somebody who, from what I understand, you were a fan, right?
Oh, yeah. Big fan from back in the day. I was kind of on the younger side when it was in its prime. So I kind of was part of the generation that started watching the reruns, kind of right as season 4 was finishing up. Just because also my mom was super into the, hey, you can't watch this or this because they talk mean to their parents. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I will continue watching Playhouse Disney then with my with my 3 years younger than me sister. But then I started kind of, finding all this cool stuff on the Disney Channel, and Kim Possible very quickly became one of my favorites.
Cool. And what was it about the show that you liked?
I really enjoyed kind of the action kind of sequences of it. I think it was really cool how she was like able to kind of save the world, and the relationship that she had with Ron, and Rufus the naked mole rat, and there were just all these different moving pieces that made it so much fun.
Wait a second, the naked mole rat was part of the show?
Yeah, so he was Ron's sidekick the whole time.
That's interesting, because I definitely have questions about how many of these characters. We'll get into that and stuff. I had no idea the mole rat was part of the show, and that's actually shocking because that mole rat had nothing to do in the movie except press one button.
Literally nothing.
And I was wow, that's actually shocking to me. I had, out of all the characters in this movie, I can't believe that one actually was a character from the show. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I am curious, though, before we actually jump into the movie. There was a lot of, hoopla around the announcement about this DCOM. So, yeah. Number one, there was the announcement that it was being made, and I feel like fans of Kim Possible were excited about that. And then they announced the casting of it, and people kind of had some strong opinions about that. So where did you lie? Okay, so first when they announced, hey, we're doing a live action Kim Possible DCOM, your thoughts were?
Skeptical.
Okay.
I feel like it was automatically what are they going to do to my series?
Okay, so how long was the show actually on the air?
A great question. Do you want me to Google it real quick?
Yeah, Google it real quick if you don't mind. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah,
and while you're doing that, so you were skeptical when they announced it, and then when they announced the casting, did that alleviate any skepticism, or were
Not really, because I hadn't heard of these actors and actresses before, other than one of my favorite people, Patton Oswalt and Allison Hannigan, which that was really fun to see. But honestly, to tell you the truth, I didn't realize that they were going to be in this movie until I watched it yesterday.
Yeah,
and I was like,
me too.
oh my gosh, it's Patton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was shocking. Because I'm actually watching an old series he's on right now, The United States of Terra, and he's on that, which I didn't realize. And so it's just like Patton Oswalt is popping up all over my life, which, by the way, people listening, if you don't know, he is the voice of Remy in Ratatouille.
Yes.
So he has a nice little Disney connection there. But did you find those dates?
Yeah, so Kim Possible was on the air from 2002 to 2007.
So that's interesting. It's been gone 12 years. In
Yeah.
12 years, although I'm sure it repeated for a very long time after that. So I guess there were generations of kids still growing up with it, but still 12 years the series is gone, and they kind of rebooted it in a live action format. I thought it was an interesting kind of random thing.
Very kind of random, but also super interesting. I think, honestly, what they're trying to do here, because this definitely feels a lot more geared towards the 6th grade to 8th grade, kind of that middle school demo. Especially with how young the actress who played Kim was. She actually is 17 years old, so she was not even a walking, talking person when this movie, or when this show aired in 2002, which I think was really interesting.
Yeah, and Sean Giambroni, who plays Ron Stoppable, he's only 19, so he's young as well. But are the characters the same age that they were in the series, or did they age them a little bit?
Okay, so here's the other weird kind of thing, is the timeline of this movie compared to the show was so off. There were so many different things where I was like, okay, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Really? Like, give me an example of that.
So in the first season of Kim Possible, she's supposed to be about 14 to 15 years old. And according to kind of like the way that the cartoon shows her, she definitely doesn't look 14 or 15 in the first season. But as you continue through to season 4, she's 17, kind of moving into 18.
But they don't actually age the character, do they?
It doesn't really seem like it, like looks-wise, so she pretty much just looks like 18 the whole time.
Okay.
She definitely has this older persona to her. And there's a joke. That was the other thing about this movie, is that there were kind of a lot of meta, like, ties and different, but we can get into that. There was a joke that she made about the costume.
Wardrobe?
Yeah, the wardrobe that she was wearing, where she said,
I have it written down here. I have the exact quote. Let's see. So there's a new friend that, because we'll give a synopsis in a second, but there's a new friend that becomes part of it, and they're in the bedroom, and she's looking at her closet and wardrobe. So we see like the classic Kim Possible costume that I think she always wore in the animated series, right?
Yes, exactly. She
It's the only
always
thing she wore. And so this girl is like, hey, why don't you wear that anymore? And Kim says, I guess wearing the same thing all of the time felt cartoony after a bit, which, not gonna lie, that was a laugh out loud moment for me. I was like, that's pretty funny.
I wrote that down. I said, kind of felt cartoony, line referencing old show. Ah, gross. It was just so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, they didn't just do that. So
you didn't like that?
No, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny.
I thought it was quite funny too. I am curious, how often do you tune into DCOMs? Were you one of those kids that like really watch them all the time, or do you anymore?
So,
because there's one reason I wanted to watch this, and I'll say it after you give your answer.
Okay. Back in the day, back when I was prime Disney Channel age, I was all about every single DCOM. Singing music from Lemonade Mouth, watching Radio Rebel on a loop. High School Musical was literally the life. I was getting the CDs for my birthday, and like I was
you
just
so
aged
into
yourself
it with CDs.
I know, exactly.
So you were like super into it. So
oh yeah,
I don't know if I honestly watched them all that often as a kid, but I remember like specifically tuning into High School Musical. My thoughts on that one has changed through the years. I didn't love it when it first came out. Now I just love it for what it is.
Right.
And this one I wanted to see because Sean Giambroni, who plays Ron Stoppable, I think is one of the funniest, weirdest kid actors out there.
Okay, I was feeling that hardcore yesterday while I was watching this.
So you don't know who he is at all?
Nope.
Okay, he plays Adam Goldberg on that ABC show.
Oh, you know what? Yep, that's why it looks so familiar. I should have done my research.
Yeah, no. So I do not like the Goldbergs. I used to like it. Season 1 I thought was phenomenal. It became an extraordinarily formulaic show that honestly, and here's the thing, I do not drop TV shows. Like I am the guy who currently I'm finishing up the 12th season of Big Bang Theory. So like through all their highs and lows, I'm like, nope, I can't give up on it. I started this. I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
The Goldbergs got so bad, in my opinion, I had to quit.
Wow.
Yeah, but even with that being said, I always thought Sean was hilarious.
Yeah.
He is super awkward, super weird, but like in such an endearing way that he just makes me laugh. And if you watch like the Disney Parks Christmas Day parades or anything like that on TV, he's often in there, and he often does a segment, and it's like, oh, this kid ain't acting. Like, this kid is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I love it. And
Yeah.
so when I heard he was playing Ron Stoppable, by the way, I had no idea whether or not this was good casting because I don't really know Ron Stoppable, but I was like, he's going to make me laugh. And sure enough, the first moment that I laughed at was like his entrance into the movie where he's like flying in on that thing and he's like just freaking out. I like that. Just his reactions are so weird and over the top. And I feel like if most people performed the way he did, you'd be like, that is completely unbelievable and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I believe it coming out of like his body. I'm like, this just seems fitting for him.
Absolutely.
So, I loved it. But in any case, why don't you give a brief synopsis of this movie to folks who may not have seen it yet?
Brief synopsis of this movie. It's kind of Kim's first foray into high school, which automatically starts to cause issues because if she's saying that it kind of felt cartoony and then she hung it up, that would mean that when she was a senior in the cartoon as a 17-year-old, then she was hanging it up to become a freshman in high school in this movie. So it doesn't really, the timeline doesn't play out very well, but I digress.
Interesting.
She is starting in high school. She's a freshman. Her and Ron are pretty famous because they have been saving all of these different, you kind of you jump into the story where they're already starting to save everybody. And so they befriend this one girl who seems to not have a whole lot of friends, and she is kind of like one of their biggest fans, it seems like. And as they continue to hang out with her, she turns into this more kind of, what would you say? Kind of overpowering.
Her skills become as good as Kim's, and some jealousy ensues. By the way, there will be spoilers here because we're going to spoil. So my guess is if you wanted to see it, you watched it, and if you didn't care to see it, you didn't. But hopefully you still enjoy this conversation. But yeah, her powers become better than Kim's, really, and there become some jealousy issues.
She shows Kim up. Kim gets really upset. Everybody starts making fun of Kim. And Kim is very sad and kind of, and all in the background you have Shigo and the main villain kind of working on this back plan that you kind of know a little bit about, but not really. And then, spoilies coming, they abduct Athena. And so and Ron and Kim are like, okay, we have to go find Athena. And then they go to try and find her. And then it turns out Athena's a robot. And I was like, what?
Athena is the girl that has, her powers become better than Kim. So yeah, she's a robot that was made by the villains to basically go and screw with Kim Possible's mind. So I gotta be honest, this twist I did not see coming at all.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And it's interesting because, like, normally in these kids' movies, you can see that kind of stuff from a mile away. Maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe some people did see it from a mile away, but I didn't. And with the animated movies these days, there often tends to be that twist. So, to be honest, I'm kind of usually looking out for it with the animated movies.
Yeah.
Yet for this, I just wasn't expecting it. I was literally, like, flabbergasted.
Oh, no, me too. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Cool. Yeah. That was a little twist. I enjoyed that.
Successful twist in the movie. So good for them. I am curious, is Athena, was she ever part of the animated series?
She was not. As far as I can tell from what I remember and the little bit of research that I've done, I do not think that Athena was ever a piece of the actual show.
What characters, like, they had some really interesting moments where, like, the grandmother trained Kim Possible. Was that a thing in the show?
I don't remember the grandmother either, but I definitely remember Wade was in the original show.
Which one was Wade?
Wade was the
the kid at the computer?
tech guy, the kid at the computer.
He worked harder than anybody in this movie. I know that Kim is out there, like, saving the world with her acrobatics and stuff, but Wade, it appears, was at a computer 24/7, keeping his eye on everything. And I was just like, whenever they needed him, they'd hit that little button and he'd pop up and like, oh, this guy never takes a break. He's literally always there. This is the hardest worker in the whole Kim Possible series, yet seems to get the least recognition.
Exactly. But at the same time, he continues to butt into conversations that it doesn't really seem like he needs to be a part of. So I was kind of feeling like Wade's a little creepy in this situation, especially in that first conversation when Kim and her mom are talking about, oh, the first day of school is going to be great. And Wade's like, you're going to do awesome. And they're like, butt out of the conversation, Wade. I was like, okay, this is weird, but that's okay.
They're like, he needs a little more screen time. So this Kim Rin stuff, it's really funny.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things you touched upon that I actually found really, really, really interesting, and I was not expecting from this, you said when they start their senior year, Kim and Ron are fairly famous because of all of these great deeds that they've done. And one of the things that I think is super common in a show like this is the fact that because not that they have superpowers, but they're obviously, they're above the normal average person when it comes to their skills.
Oh, yeah.
Usually this type of stuff is like secret.
Yeah.
And the thing would be, oh, they're going through high school and they have this double life that nobody knows about. And so I was really surprised on just simply on the fact that, everybody knew, and this was no secret. The parents were in on it. Their classmates were in on it. I thought that was really, really interesting. I'm going to assume it was the same in the animated series, yes?
Yes, I'm pretty positive that it was the same in the series.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Like,
yeah.
I kind of love that. That's kind of a new twist. I'm sure there's some other show that does that, but I don't know. I'm just kind of like with Hannah Montana, like nobody, actually I've never seen Hannah Montana. I'm making an assumption here.
No, but you're right. This is a good assumption for you.
Yeah, nobody knew that she was this, double personality or whatever. And I don't know. I really, really loved that detail fact about the story. I thought it was cool.
Yes. Whereas Hannah was getting the best of both worlds, Kim was in the spotlight in her own world.
I gotta be honest, Miley Cyrus has come into conversation on far too many episodes of Disney Coast to Coast this season, and I'm just not okay with this. And it's my own fault this time. I brought it up.
Yep.
I don't even know why. Now, there was a moment at the beginning we kind of got which is a little weird for a movie versus a TV series, but we kind of got a theme song at the beginning of this movie, right after the whole first action sequence. I'm curious, was that the theme song from the show, or was this something original?
This was the theme song from the show, and it was kind of... They tried to do a little bit of a shot-for-shot kind of situation with all the spins and the flips and the twists. Okay. And I think it was a little bit of fan service for all of the old school diehards, which I thought was pretty cute. But I have to admit, it felt a little hokey.
Really? Yeah, you know what it was? For me, it just felt like it came very late into the movie. There's probably a 10-minute sequence before it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, all right. It just seemed a little bit later than I would expect it to be. But I mean, it didn't bother me. And like you said, the fan service is there for the people who wanted that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
But so tell me, were there any favorite moments that you had throughout this movie? Or actually, I don't even know if I've asked yet. Overall, what did you think of this? Did you like this movie?
Overall, being the Kim Possible TV series fan that I was, this was not a movie that I enjoyed from this is a good movie perspective. Mm-hmm. I more so enjoyed it in the fact of making fun of it and kind of being wow, this is so just not that good kind of situation.
Yeah. I, as a person who's never seen Kim Possible, it's a DCOM. It's obviously not for my age demographic, and even you've kind of aged out of it at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
So having said that and having seen some really bad DCOMs, I would say this was probably one of the better ones. I wasn't like rolling my eyes the entire time, and I definitely laughed out loud quite a few times, mostly because of Sean Giambrone. But, so in that respect, I'd say it was enjoyable. It's not one that I'm going to be like, can I purchase that on iTunes? I'm not going to watch it on repeat or anything. But I am kind of curious to see if this is them prompting like a reboot of the series, whether it would be a live action or animated series coming back. I don't know. It seems a little weird that they would invest in this if they don't have future plans. And let's just say it was definitely set up for a sequel.
Oh my gosh. That was like the most like, okay, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to set you up for a sequel. Now you have to watch this, and we're going to set you up for a sequel. And did we tell you? There's going to be a sequel. I was like, oh my goodness. You could not hit us over the head any harder with that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the ratings are good enough for their sake. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of embarrassing because, like, this was clearly made for a sequel.
Yeah, it almost seems like it. Like, I was kind of reading a couple articles online, and it looks like a lot of people enjoyed it. Like, a lot of people were really kind of digging the first look into this new kind of different Kim Possible, which, for the sake of the series, I'm kind of excited for, but at the same time, the movie was not that great, and so I'm nervous that they are going to kind of taint the image of the series.
Well, it's interesting as well, like, if they're going to do this, they better do it soon, because the two leads are kind of at an age where, like, they're going to start aging. I don't want to say aging quickly, but, like, they're just, like, right at the end of being a teenager, and it's gonna be like, okay, you might start looking too old for these characters pretty darn quickly. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. I do want to get back to this naked mole rat. First of all, another laugh out loud moment for me, one of Sean's lines, Ron Stoppable, where he goes, naked mole rat, naked. And I was like, what, like, childish humor? But his delivery of it is so funny. I'm telling you, for him alone, I'd say tune in. If you think that weird, quirky kid is funny, it's a good enough reason to tune in. Like, that's plenty.
Yeah.
But
to my dismay, I found myself laughing too many times. Like, oh my gosh, that was so stupid. But I'm also laughing because that was kind of funny.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we said, like, this naked mole rat, I'm literally in shock that this was a character from the show, because he's introduced, I guess, halfway through the movie, and Ron kind of just, like, puts him in his backpack, and they'll, like, refer to him every once in a while, but not for any real good reasons. It's just like, oh, hey, you're still here type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I guess maybe he had two purposes, right? At one point, he does suggest that Ron bring what's the thing I'm trying to think of? The drone with him.
Yeah.
So I guess that he helps in that way. And then he later uses that drone to hit the button and release the whole trap that they're in.
Which that felt like a whole, like, oh, really? The button is over there? I guess they were probably trying to do that to make it be like, oh, we're making fun of superhero movie. Like, because it almost seems like their attention to, and I don't want to derail where we were going too much, but it almost seems like the writers here were trying to be a kind of meta joke take on the kind of superhero genre. Like, they tried, but they weren't, like, they got like a D+, like, they're passing, but they didn't do a very good job, because there were a lot of meta jokes within the storyline, and kind of like the way that they were trying to tell the story seemed like, oh, okay, they're trying to make this writing seem a little bit, this is how it is. Like, it seemed like it was trying to be predictable in a funny way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they didn't do it to kind of like the Deadpool level.
Well, I certainly hope that this Disney Channel original movie didn't do it on a Deadpool level. But I get exactly what you're saying. It is, it was done for comedy purposes, and they were kind of poking fun at the genre, but at the same time, they are the genre, so it was a little weird. But back to the mole rat. So his whole purpose in this whole movie was to hit a button to release them. But I gotta be honest, like, I feel like frankly, they could have had the drone with them and just you know, maneuvered
Crashed
the
it into
drone
the
so that
button.
that hit the button, or they could have done something like that. So what it kind of felt like to me was they wrote the movie, they finished it up, they did a study of like Kim Possible fans. This didn't actually happen. This is just what it felt like to me. But they did a study, and Kim Possible fans were like, "Wait a sec, where's the naked mole rat?" Like, "Oh God, we got to fit him in somehow." And so they're just like, "Okay, he can hit the button at the end." Like that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I feel like, you know, he was a very integral part in the series, which is another thing that's funky. Like he has been in the series for almost the entirety of the show, and then they're kind of trying to say that Ron met him in the secret lair. And I was like, well, that doesn't really work because they've been friends for a very long time. He's always been the sidekick.
So the continuity is way off.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Super
I
off.
have if I had been a fan of Kim Possible, that would have driven me crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, that probably would have made me hate the movie because I can't stand stuff like that. You know who's
It made
super
me upset.
guilty of it, and it drives me crazy because I'm such a fan. But the Flintstones are so guilty. They have like 4 or 5 different origin stories of how Fred and Wilma met, and I'm just like, can we please just pick one and go with it? Like it drives me crazy when things. I just find it so disrespectful to the viewer, you know, of these things. It's like, no, like we love what you did, which is why we're tuning in, and now you're just kind of pretending that never happened. Another one. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm fitting Honey, I Shrunk the Kids into this episode as well. As much as I love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, it drives me absolutely crazy that at the end of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, you've seen it? Yes.
Of course.
Okay. Do you remember?
I can't be talking to Jeff DePauli without knowing my Honey, I Shrunk the Kids history.
Fair
Come
enough.
on.
That's like a prerequisite of coming on the show.
Yeah.
But do you remember how that movie ended? They were at a Thanksgiving table.
Oh, yeah.
And they have the giant turkey and then the giant dog bone for the dog. So I'm like, oh, cool. So this man who invented a shrinking machine now can blow things up. Yet then there's a sequel called Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, where the first 30 minutes of the movie, he's trying to get the machine to work. I'm like, you already did this at the end of the first movie. This is unnecessary. And it drives me up the wall. Like, oh,
man.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was a tangent, and it felt good to say it out loud. And now I'm just so bothered by it. But in any case, yes. So if I had been a diehard Kim Possible fan the way I am a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids fan, that would have bothered me tremendously. I think that's crazy that they do that. So
absolutely.
So what was the purpose of this naked mole rat in the series, though? Because
he really kind of used him as Ron's sidekick and comic relief. Like, he was like the funny kind of helped with like the setup for Ron's jokes, and also was there to kind of help Ron through different situations, and he kind of played a part in most of their missions. Okay, so
way underused in this film. And
yeah, definitely.
Really, 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 really bizarre. I gotta say, there was a moment that I found to be terribly disturbing that I was like, this is gonna give kids nightmares. And do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
This is the scene that they used all their special effects budget on, is what I'm assuming you're talking about, where she takes part of her face off.
Oh, not even just that part, but a little later on. But yes, she does. So what was her name? Was it Athena? She, when we find out she's a robot, she takes off part of her face, and we can see like the gears and stuff behind her skin, which is a little disturbing. But it gets even more disturbing later, when her head has been decapitated at this point. And one of the characters, I can't even remember which one, but one of the characters picks up her head, and like he or she is holding a severed head. And I'm like, this is like, I'll put it to you this way. If it made me stop and think, oh, this is a little disturbing, there's definitely children out there that are like traumatized by
Children
this.
are terrified now. I was so far out of the movie at this point, kind of after the explosion. I'm like, oh my, really? okay, and then she picked up the head and I was like, oh, well, that's different. Like, what? There's a hand, and then she didn't. All right, I guess this is where this is going.
This is happening. And of course, they bring the robotic girl back to life. I did want to ask that. So Kim's parents in this movie have very specific skills as well that are used, whereas the dad he puts the robot back together, so he has some of those engineering skills. And then the mom has fighting skills, right?
Yeah, as well as the grandma.
Okay, so was that part of the show? Were her parents like... were they ever involved in these adventures, and did they have these skills?
It was not prominent enough for me to remember. It's very possible that they did have said skills, but I don't remember that was ever really a source of content for the show.
Okay. Now, one of my absolute favorite moments of the show, and this is, oh my gosh, this is just old man dad joke craziness that made me laugh literally every single time they showed it. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Is it Booyah?
Oh no, Booyah was great. So there was this great moment, well, of course, Sean Giambroni. It is a little weird. Kim uses her powers to get to the bus on time, which I thought was a little strange. It's like, really? She just once again, she just does it in open daylight in a lot of situations. I feel like this would have been a secret thing, but whatever. Right. She does it. She gets on the bus in time. And I guess one of the things they do to really advocate the point that this isn't anything special that people don't know about is nobody on the bus is impressed except for Ron, who gives a nice booyah. And it made me laugh out loud. I'm sorry, but his stupid antics make me laugh out loud.
And that's Ron's catchphrase from the show. He was always the booyah guy. So that was kind of like a funny little piece of fan service. And that clip actually came out before the movie. And so that was like the first look that we got into this. And when that came out, it was like almost red flag. Like, oh no, this is what we're getting ourselves into. This is going to be interesting.
I mean, but to be fair, would you have been happy if there was none of that in it? I feel like if you're a Kim Possible fan tuning into this movie because you love Kim Possible, wouldn't you be bummed if there wasn't a booyah or if there's...
Oh yeah, no, totally. The booyah was the best part of that scene. It was more so the baby carriage flying away and then she grappling hooks and then does the flip that's really kind of cheesy. And I was just like, okay, this is going to be very interesting to watch. Okay. And that's kind of like how it's set up. But the booyah is what saved that entire clip. I was like, yeah, Ron!
Ron stoppable. No, the super lame dad joke thing I was referring to was the sign at the school entrance.
Oh, that was really funny.
Did you read these?
I pointed out one of them. I didn't know there was more than one.
So I caught 3 of them. I'm curious, which one did you catch? Do you happen to remember what it said?
I did not write it down, which actually makes me upset. But it was one where I was like, huh, that's kind of funny.
Okay, so the first time we see this, so this is just like one of those typical signs. You know, you have the sign with the name of the high school on it, and they can change it throughout the season to say, football game tonight or whatever.
Yeah.
Although there's never said normal stuff. It always said like really stupid dad joke puns. And the first one was summer's over and it's all your fall.
Oh yeah, that was really funny. That was the one that I saw that I was like...
Summer's over and it's all your fall. I love it. That made me laugh. And then later on, we got one that says soccer tryouts just for kicks.
Oh, that's good. That one's. I didn't catch that one, but that's really funny.
Like, to be honest, at the beginning, because it was fairly early in the movie when we get that summer's over and it's all your fall one, I was like, okay, that was so funny. And so like I specifically kept my eye out for these signs throughout the movie because I was like, oh, somebody was having a blast with these and somebody was cracking themselves up. There was finally a third one that I saw that said assembly required. They were having a school assembly, and of course, it's like the toys putting to assembly required. I don't think I needed to explain that, but I just did for some reason. But oh my god, they made me laugh so hard. I'm telling you, for like there's some good, funny stuff in this movie.
Agreed. Yeah, there were a couple of things where I definitely laughed out loud. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so goobery to the point of it being like, okay, that was good. I enjoyed that."
I am curious. Did you catch? This was shocking to me, and it's right at the beginning of the movie. Did you catch the Nickelodeon reference?
Okay, yeah, that was so funny. The whole slime situation. I was like, really? It's going to be that kind of movie where we're just referencing a bunch of different stuff? And fortunately, they didn't do a whole lot of that. But I was like, that's kind of funny. And also, at the very beginning, I thought was really kind of funny. There was a Wilhelm scream when one of the henchmen fell over the railing, which, for anyone who doesn't know, the Wilhelm scream is something that George Lucas used a lot in Star Wars, and then since then has been used in a lot of different properties when somebody is like falling or like exploding. It's just kind of this like well-known scream.
Like, so it's like literally the same audio they use over and over again?
Yeah. It's like, whoa!
Oh, no kidding.
That
I
was-
actually didn't even catch that.
Yeah, that
good
was a
catch.
very bad representation of the Wilhelm scream.
Oh, no, so the Nickelodeon reference, which, I mean, it's totally shocking that Disney Channel would ever reference Nickelodeon. That's why I was, like, beyond shocked by this. But there's a whole bunch of slime as part of this whole... with Patton Oswalt's character, he's going to use slime to take over the world. And I think it was Ron. Yeah, he says... I'll only use my slime for the good of humanity. Maybe for the occasional kids' award show. And I literally, like, it stopped me in my track. I rewound it. I was like, did I just hear that correct? Like, there's no way that Disney Channel just made a reference to a Nickelodeon Kids Award show. Like, that blew my mind.
Yeah, I pointed that one out too. I thought that was really kind of oh, all right. Well, that was kind of cool. I enjoyed that.
I love that they did it, and I'm just shocked that it...
Oh, me too. Definitely.
Whoever approved, like, the final cut of the movie probably did not get that reference, is what I would have to say. The person who wrote it certainly knew what they were writing, but otherwise they didn't get the reference. It's great.
That's really funny. I think that kind of going along with the slime thing, this movie is going to feel really dated in about 8 months. There were a couple things that they used where I was like, oh man, like you didn't have to do that. So like slime is really popular with the middle school crowd right now. Everybody's all into making their own slime and playing with it. And so that being a plot device was kind of like, all right, slime. And then there was Villainstagram that was referenced like 4 or 5 different times where I was like, okay, that's, they are making this a much bigger deal than it should be. Like you could have gone the entire movie without using Villainstagram and it would have not done anything to the plot. And then they also used the word meme at one point. He was like, this is going to make such a great meme.
Imagine the cruel memes is what he says, because Kim is doing some action sequence and like falls in her face and the villain's like, imagine the cruel memes. And I actually caught that as well. I was like, yeah, this is definitely making some like very specific time period references that in the future will not make much sense probably, but I don't know. I mean, memes have been around for a while at this point. Who knows?
Yeah. And then they reference the duck face at one point when he's taking selfies. And that was a little bit like, oh, okay. All right. But then they kind of revive themselves a little bit with the grandma and mom coming in and she goes, Team Golden Girls, are you guys good? And and the mom was like, really? That was the name that you chose for us or something like that. That was quite funny. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did think it was funny that they got a Golden Girls reference into this movie. It's one of those things that the kids watching are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But it's pretty funny. Anything else you want to add? Were there any favorite moments we didn't touch upon or any moments that drove you up the wall as a fan of Kim Possible?
Well, I think the main takeaway for me was that this is something that is almost trying to reinvent the series. And I don't know if I personally am for that because I love the series as a whole so much more.
Yeah.
I feel like all of the cartoon characters felt older. I'm not going to lie, in my weird, preteen age when I was watching this, the cartoon characters were a lot more attractive than the actual humans playing the characters.
What a weird thing to say.
Isn't that weird? But that was literally one of the thoughts that crossed my mind last night. I was like, that's interesting. I felt more attracted to the cartoon characters than to the actual characters in this film. But I digress. I feel like it was just kind of really, really extra. And I feel like it's perfect for that middle school audience that doesn't know anything about Kim Possible. This is their first foray into kind of the new universe, the new Kim Possible universe, if they are going to, in fact, create a sequel and maybe even a show. But for us old Kim Possible fans, this was kind of like a, okay, all right.
I would assume they don't show the animated series at all anymore, do they?
No, they do not.
I wouldn't be surprised if what this does is maybe bring the animated series back in reruns on some network and then maybe get a sequel movie or two. I don't think they're going to make a live action series. I'd be surprised if they do, or if that was even a plan of theirs at all. I'd be surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised to get the sequel. As we said, it was definitely set up for the sequel. And, hopefully for them, the ratings went well enough that they decide to do it. And it's weird because, like, I don't really pay much attention to DCOMs. Every once in a while, one comes along that catches my attention, and this one certainly did, to the point that I was like, I'm going to tune into it. And, and I was excited to know somebody who actually liked the series so that we could have a conversation about it.
Yeah, totally.
I do want to mention Sadie Stanley, who played Kim Possible, and I want to mention her for a couple of reasons. Number one, she was good.
Yeah, she
and number
was.
two, she has like no credits on IMDb. Very, 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 very few little credits. So bravo to her for getting like this lead role in this iconic character with so little credits. I was happy to see that, especially since like the opposite was the case of Ron.
Yeah.
Where he has a lot of credits, and
Totally.
they were both equally as wonderful. So
That's a very good point.
it's a fun little movie. If you get a chance, check it out. I'm sure they will repeat it a billion times on
Bajillion.
Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And anyways, guys, I think that means it's trivia time. All right, Jack, do you have a trivia question for me, or shall I hit you with mine first?
I think you should hit me with yours first.
Okay, well, this is kind of a little bit of a two-parter, but Kim Possible at one point was had a little something going on at Epcot over at Walt Disney World. I'm curious if you know what I'm talking about and what replaced it.
Wow.
And this isn't like character meet and greets. This was a thing at Epcot that you could do involving Kim Possible.
So, Disney fan kind of confession. I have only been to the Orlando parks once, and I went to Walt Disney World, and I went to Hollywood Studios, and I have not been to Epcot.
Wait, what did you mean when you said you went to Walt Disney World?
I went to Magic Kingdom.
Thank you very much for that correction. Jack, you should know better. Jack, that just hurt my soul. You killed me a little bit. But I appreciate the fact that you said Walt Disney World.
Thank you. Yeah.
You went to Magic Kingdom and Disney's Hollywood Studios?
I went to Magic Kingdom and Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Okay, well, Epcot had this thing. It was called the Kim Possible World Showcase Adventure. So, you know what World Showcase is.
Yes, definitely.
That's the part of Epcot with all the countries. So they had this thing where you could basically go and sign up, and they gave you, I think it was kind of like a cell phone. And it's kind of like, are you familiar with Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of like that, but you had a device, and you had to go all over World Showcase and basically solve these. It was kind of like a scavenger hunt, and then there were things around World Showcase that would like interact with you. So when you were there with the phone, you could like look in a store window, and something would activate.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a fun little game, and it was called Kim Possible World Showcase Adventure. And then it was replaced by, and I think still available, I could be wrong about that fact, but it became Agent P's World Showcase Adventure, where they took a character from Phineas and Ferb, essentially did the same thing. But yeah, it's a fun little, I actually did I think I did the Agent P one. I think it had switched over at that point, but I did do
really
it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun little thing, but so Kim Possible had quite a little adventure going on over at Epcot at one point.
Yeah.
Not anymore, but hey, maybe they'll bring it back, make it Kim Possible again, and instead of the animated characters on the screens, we'll get the live action.
That would be kind of fun. That'd be super cool.
As long as there's, a booyah and a naked mole rat, we're all good.
This is true. This is in the boop boop doo. That's token signature.
That's
There's
essential.
so many millennials that I'm walking around and their text tone is doo 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 doo, and I go,
Are you serious?
I see you. Yes,
That's That's kind of awesome. I love that.
It is. It's really kind of cool.
Cool. Anyway, what's your trivia question for me?
Okay, so my trivia question for you. Kim Possible, the TV show, was the most watched, highly rated, and most beloved television show on Disney Channel until it was replaced by which show?
Ooh. Number one, were those actual factual statements you said or just opinions? Was it actually like the number one rated show?
It was the number one rated show.
Wow. Was it replaced by an animated series or live action?
It was replaced by an animated series, and I'll even give you the year. It was in 2007 that this show was created.
Ooh, 2007 animated series. Ugh, this is going to be rough. Was it Phineas and Ferb?
It was Phineas and Ferb.
Very interesting. So that's actually really interesting because that ties into my trivia question.
Exactly. I thought that was kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Phineas and Ferb beat it in the ratings on Disney Channel and therefore took over its place in World Showcase.
Yep.
Now I feel bad for Kim Possible. That's very, very sad.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyways, Jack, this has been a lot of fun talking about Kim Possible. I'm really happy that I enjoyed it and didn't have to come on here and just talk crap about the movie because sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But this one was a fun movie review, I would say. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I had fun watching it for sure, just kind of making fun of it. And, this has been such a fun conversation. It's always great when you get to watch something and then you're able to have a really good conversation about it.
And fit in a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids reference, too.
Of course, always.
That's a double win. If there was a Disney Coast to Coast bingo board, one of the squares would say, mention Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And it would kind of be like the free space in the middle of the bingo board.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Amazing. Jack, why don't you let the folks know where they can hear you?
So I am on a little fun show called Theme Park Pulse, which is at a No Midnight Media, and we are a news-based podcast about Disney and other theme parks twice a week, and the weekend edition is where we are able to kind of have a little bit more of a discussion about said topics that we're reporting on. It's a whole lot of fun. I do it with 3 other guys, and you can find us over at themeparkpulse.com, at nomidnightmedia.com, over on Twitter and Instagram. Theme Park Pulse, we're everywhere. It's a whole lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. This has been such a blast. Booyah!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.